Ghana has been booted from its position as the second most peaceful country in the sub-Saharan Africa on the 2023 Global Peace Index. It is now in 4th place and 51st in the world. The nation is among 163 independent states rated in this year's ranking by the Institute of Economics and Peace, IEP. The research found that the world had become less peaceful in the last 15 years. External and internal conflict are main reasons cited for the deteriorating peace in the countries, including Ghana. Now, here are the details from the document that we've gleaned for you. We'll share that with you in the course of the show. But ONEP is calling for a concerted stakeholder engagement in dealing with the lapses in Ghana's case, so to uphold the peace, especially going into the 2024 general elections. Let's speak now to the chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Dr. Edu Gyamfi, who's joining us, as well as Dr. Ishmael Norman, who is a security analyst. Grateful to you for joining us. Reverend, let me start with you. What do you make of this news that we've slipped on the Global Peace Index?
It's unfortunate that we've lost our position as the most peaceful country in West Africa, the second most peaceful country in Africa. As you rightly stated, Ghana has moved to the second place in West Africa, the fourth in Africa. But there are factors that do contribute to the index. Some of the indexes that are used are, number one, low crime rate. So when the country experiences a lot more of crime, it affects the rating. And in our country, we've seen a few incidents in the shooting of.
Well, it's difficult for us to hear you, but let's speak to the Peace Council Chairman, Reverend Dr. Edu Gyamfi. Reverend, if you're with me, first your reaction to this news that we've slipped, as the most peaceful country, sub-Saharan Africa, we've slipped as the second most peaceful to the fourth now. How do you react to this news? Okay, let me bring in Dr. Ishmael Norman now. Doc, grateful that you could join us here. You are a security analyst. You understand the security setup and all of that. What probably could have led to, what has caused us to slip?
Well, I think over the last few years, Ghana has had, there hasn't been any real big conflict, but the economic impact of COVID, the internal situation in managing the economy and all of that, the debt burden on the country, all of that is probably contributed to the current designation that we have. But it is not all that bad. In disaster management, we learn or we teach that in conflict situations, as a practical matter, companies can have some of the best options in investing. So it's up to the marketing arm of this country to go out there. Yes, we may not be the way we used to be, but look at the opportunities that have opened up because of the situation that has been created. Mistakes in the marketplace create a great deal of opportunities. I used to work for a U.S. company where I only dealt in countries where there were upheavals. Rwanda, Burundi, Mozambique, Angola. I will go there and trade, and you are able to maximize a lot of deals and a lot of options. So I think it is the way you look at it. The conflict does not necessarily mean that business has ended. The stream of commerce continue even if people are being shot at gunpoint. Okay. So I think it is up to the businesses, their commitment to the place and what exactly they want to get out of the place. But it is up to us as a country to market our potential, because we will not always have this situation. Things will normalize. Ghana will survive this, and Ghana will be great again. So let us market it well. It's not all that bad.
So your point is that it's not a source of concern as it is now?
It should be a concern, Kojo, but it shouldn't be so overwhelming concern that we don't know our way out. We can maneuver our way out of this, you know. But it's all a matter of positioning us.
But I mean, with your understanding of the security architecture of the country, what could have probably led us to this point where we are not the most peaceful country, sub-Saharan Africa?
It is very interesting, the variables that went into that determination, because we are not at war with ourselves. We are not being attacked by terrorists. Most people in Ghana feel very peaceful, and they feel very safe. So what is the relative degree of uncertainty about safety in this country or about security that made them designate us in that position? I believe that we need to interrogate the variables that went into it so that we can handle or attack each one of them properly. But as it is all abstract. We don't know what the considerations were for them to come to that conclusion. So I think for now, we should take it as it is for what it is, and then find a way to maneuver our way out of it, because in Africa, we continue to be a very peaceful country, even despite what the experts or the researchers are saying, because it's only a temporary situation.
Well, we understand the attacks on journalists were used, also contributed to our slippage. So they feel that journalists were not safe to do their work in the country any longer, and that's why we are slipping. So some of these, attacks on people, journalists, businessmen, the sort of little conflict that we do hear about is why we are slipping. So it's something that is coming from within. We are doing this to ourselves.
Which is very interesting, because it shouldn't be like that. But, there's not a perfect world anywhere, because even in America, they have similar situations, despite their arsenal of weapons and military and police presence everywhere. However, because of the situation that we find ourselves, the economic situation that we find ourselves, I think central government can do a bit better than it is doing in terms of maintaining regional conflicts, Boko conflict, northern region, the Upper East region conflict, Western North region conflict. I think all of these conflicts, the isolated conflicts that we have around, can be handled better. In addition to that, attacking journalists is not cool, because what have they done? They are only reporting the news as you have created it. So if I'm just narrating what you have done, why do you attack me? So these are some of the things that the police administration, the military organization in Ghana should take cognizance of and try to correct it, because these little things they do, they are very big in the world opinion, and that they have to control themselves and manage the affairs of this country on individual basis, even before it comes to the collective level.
Let me bring in Reverend Dr. Adu Gyamfi. He is chairman of the National Peace Council. Reverend, earlier I was speaking your thought, your reaction to this news, but the line wasn't helping us. For you, as a chairman of the Peace Council, how are you receiving this news that we are no longer the most peaceful country sub-Saharan Africa?
For us as a council, it's not in terms of our work.
Okay. I think we're having technical challenges with Reverend's line, but we still have Dr. Ishmael Norman. He is a security analyst with us here. Doc, so, I mean, in moving forward, if we have to take it sector by sector, earlier you said that we have to sell this country. Well, we've also heard that attacks on journalists contributed to it. You are saying that the security agencies have to up their game. What must central government do now that this ranking is coming up to ensure that we reclaim our position as the most peaceful country?
The concerns of the foreign ministry and regional organizations should be. I believe that the central government can begin the propaganda machinery about repositioning of Ghana in the international marketplace, making sure that we are still respected as a peaceful nation, because in reality we are very peaceful. But these anomalies, attacking journalists, Boko, nobody seems to be handling the Boko conflict and other conflicts around the country. And I think central government should pay a bit more attention. Interior Ministry, that is your remit. Do the right thing so that at least all these anomalies can be corrected and solutions can be found, so that we don't have this kind of designation that affects almost everything that we do in this country. Investment is very, very critical to our survival.
Okay. Stay with me. Reverend Dr. Edu Gyamfi is back on the line. Let's try the line now to see how it's working out. Reverend, welcome again. So I was still trying to get your thought on how the council is receiving this news.
Well, as I said earlier on, the council is not too happy about this because it looks like the country that has beaten us, which is Sierra Leone, in terms of the structures that we have here, we should have been above them. But the reality is what the other panelists said earlier on, that some of these things are things that we've done to ourselves. I think that sometimes we hype certain things beyond proportion. And these things have contributed to these things. For instance, during our election period, we make too much noise as if the country is almost burning, as if all of us are going to die. All those things are hyping creating a situation that makes the country feel like we are unsafe. Then we have also situations where civilians are turning now themselves on the security services. We've seen the case of the Boko incident where the immigration officer was shot. Then we've also seen recently a policeman shot by armed robbers. So when the attack goes on the security services, it is given an impression as if our security services are no longer in control of the country. But these are things that civilians are doing to our security services, which ought to be looked at. And I think that we all have to put ourselves online and defend the security services to provide the needed services that the country needs.
Well, they consider several things: violence, the attack on journalists, and what have you. These are things that we are not doing enough in the country, isn't it? How must we, approach these issues now going forward?
I think that from our perspective as a council, there must continually be a public education. We've just ended a dialogue between the political parties and the police service. We did one earlier on with the whole security services in February. We've done a follow-up the last 2 days. Now, we keep reviewing all these things that we see in the country and keep on educating ourselves and bringing ourselves on the same place so that everybody understands where we are, what we ought to do, and how we have to handle the country to make the country as peaceful as it ought to be.
Well, but if you look at the report in general, there's a global deterioration in peace. So it means that peace in itself globally is retrogression. Now, we as a country, we are interested in ensuring that we deepen our peace. You said that you've met the political parties and the police. But is that all? Does it only rest with those people?
No. For the last few months, we've done a lot of work. We've worked with over 400 people within various communities. We've had meetings with Queen Mothers. We've had meetings with fisher folks in Adan and in Elmina. We've had training for student leaders to help them to understand that all these things that we do in the schools create problems for the country. Currently, we are working in secondary schools, and then we are also tackling the security services and the political parties. So there's a lot of work going on underground, trying to mitigate some of these challenges that we do have. But I think that whilst we're doing all of these things, the public must be educated to understand that sometimes some of the things that we write on social media, especially on social media, because it's very difficult to control social media now, and all those things being put out gives a certain perception about the country. Sometimes when you travel outside, for us who are also ministers who preach in churches, when we travel outside, our citizens outside feel from the news they read as if the country is almost burning. So we go back and tell them that, look, what you are hearing is not true. So there's a certain perception out there because people are writing all kinds of things on social media. So these perceptions are also received by these evaluators who are outside the country, because they are also reading from the internet and getting news from all those places. So we have to be very careful to educate our public. Let's look at the interests of our country. Sometimes we do some of these things for personal gain, for political gain, and all of those things. But at the end of the day, we are looking at, for instance, the economic benefits of those reforms. Some people looking at this will realize that Ghana is not becoming too safe. Do I take my investment there? And then we're also talking about jobs for our people. So these people are not coming in to invest. It affects us. If somebody wants to put something into this country, they are beginning to ask themselves, is the country safe now? Can I go there? So there are economic benefits when we are reaching it higher. And these are things that all of us must understand, that it's necessary as a people to project a right image about our country to the outside world.
But these are people putting their realities on social media. It's not like these are not issues that are happening that they put there. Isn't that the case?
I think that sometimes we may have to report accurately, but when we put too much hype on it, for instance, sometimes like armed robbery, a few incidents might have happened, but when you go out of the country, the projection there is as if we are being robbed everywhere, you know. So it's what people write and how they write them and how they communicate these things, which gives a certain image about the country. That's what we need to address.
Okay, so it means that we have to look at what we put out there. But internally, we do have conflict here and there. We all know of what's happening in Boko area and what the efforts are in trying to stem that out. But how do we as a nation approach these issues to ensure that they do not degenerate or escalate such that it gives us some of these rankings that we're having?
Right. Well, Bako is, let me use in quotes, it's an isolated case. It's within a small area of the country, even though it's quite a big area. But in Kurasa side in quotes. But when we are looking at the perception of the whole country, then what is happening in Boko should not be projected as if the whole country is like Boko.
Okay.
Those are the things that I'm talking about. In terms of robbery and all that, it goes on in every country. Every country has it. Even America, I mean, look at all the gun violence that we see. Right. But they will not go out and project their country in a very bad image. But sometimes what we do to ourselves is what I'm talking about. That people talk about it as if we are dead and as if the country, everything has been turned upside down. Those things do not help us as a people because it affects us economically.
But this study, we understand, covered 3 domains: the level of societal safety and security, the extent of ongoing domestic and international conflict, and degree of militarization. If that is it means that people in Ghana feel they are not safe and secured, and therefore something must happen. What should the government, of course, together with you, the Peace Council, do to make people feel that secured, in order to portray that good image we want to have out there about the country?
Now, if you look at the three areas, militarization,
Yeah.
Even though we have challenges, I don't think that is a major issue in this country. Then we are talking about international conflict. We don't have that. The area where we may be falling short is the safety, security, and then domestic conflict.
Yeah.
That's right. So those are the issues we have to address. And when it comes to domestic conflict, we have almost of these things are coming out of chieftaincy disputes and land disputes. So there's a need for us to bring ourselves together to deal with it from that angle. How do we tackle these things? What law can we put in place to deal with land litigation and some of these chieftaincy conflicts that we are having? Then there are also the main challenges with youth employment, which is a major issue for us. And that also sometimes creates certain agitations within certain corners. These are issues that we have to address. And those funds, we leave it with the government and the private sector. We cannot only say that the government alone can do it. Private sector has a role to play. The most important thing is for us to put in the measures that makes it easy for private sector to expand and also to be able to employ a lot more people. Yeah.
Hello, Reverend. Well, Reverend Dr. Edudzi Mfii is chairman of the National Peace Council. We still have Dr. Ishmael Norman on the line. So, Doc, in terms of internal security, people citing armed robberies, highway robberies, and even land guardism as one of the issues why we are where we are. Strategically and from the security point of view, what do you expect to happen going forward?
Well, I totally associate with quite a lot of things that Reverend Edudzi Mfii just offered to all of us. I believe that the whole thing is quite relative because you may feel very safe in the middle of Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Another person may feel very unsafe in that place. So it is one of those things that the municipal assemblies, together with central government and Ministry of Interior, have to put measures in place to ensure that in every community, at least there is that level of peace and tolerance for people's rights and freedom to move about and do the things they want to do. I think when you neglect basic things like power supply, intermittent power supply, good roads and all of that, it all affects that. But you know what? Our country is going through very, very difficult moment. This same study, if it's done maybe a year from today, the result will be very encouraging, will be very different from what we got. So, yes, they have done it. Yes, they have used certain variables to determine that we are not as safe as we used to be. So central government is, we would say in football, over to you, Joe Latte. Central government has to now play its role and ensure that we regain the predominance that we used to have when it came to issues of peace within the sub-region. So I think central government has the biggest role to play, and then the citizens will come along and play along with government to achieve the goal we all want for ourselves.
Dr. Ishmael Norman, I'm grateful to you for joining us. He is a security analyst.